Today's guest speaker is Dave Feldman. He is a conscious entrepreneur and a speaker. He is also the co-founder of a number of mission-driven organizations, including Livability Project, Bethesda Green, and now Virtues Matter. So welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Heather. It's good to be
Yeah.
here.
Thanks so much for agreeing to speak with us and sharing your pearls of wisdom. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions. Number one is, how do you define a social entrepreneur? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, well, I love that question. I mean, it's important, especially today, for the need with so many challenges that we're facing. Just as society, as our communities, as individuals. I define a social entrepreneur starting with, it's a profitable enterprise that, like any business, solves a problem. But the differentiator is it benefits society and honors all stakeholders. And in benefiting society, it makes it one of its priorities is that it actually serves a greater good. And that greater good could be any number of different things. It could be environmental, it could be social challenges. There are so many, difficulties we're having in society. But it also honors all the stakeholders. And that stakeholders could be anybody from your employees to your suppliers, to the community in which you exist, to the public good in general. And, that puts a lot of weight on a social entrepreneur, but they are being very thoughtful of all of those different areas. And they're often looking at changing things systemically. It really is. When they come in, they want to change something. It's not just about growing a business, but they want to change something that they see in the world that doesn't work quite right.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying. And the mindfulness piece that I would add to that is that when we talk about the two wings of the bird, the compassion and the wisdom, or the kindness and awareness, it's really a balance of those two things. So we're using our hearts and our minds, we're serving the greater good, and we're fulfilling a need and making money
Yeah.
at the same time. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah, there's
Right.
something about being a social entrepreneur that I think is, in its general nature, a bit more holistic. Unfortunately, that the way the original corporations were set up, and especially when they become a public corporation, their number one goal is to increase shareholder wealth. I mean, that is really in the mandate of an organization. But businesses play so many other roles in society right now. It really does. And, as a social entrepreneur, there are extra challenges to be able to look at all those different components of what it is to serve. But it really does make a healthier, better business on several levels. I mean,
Yeah.
it's looking at the bigger picture, and I actually like the way you framed it through a mindfulness perspective, because it really is being aware of all of those, asking the right questions, being discerning, and so forth.
Yeah. And also having the awareness that we're part of a system.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're interconnected, and being aware of that and the implications of that. All right. My next question is, why do you think it's important for people to focus on virtues and relationships in an organizational setting?
Well, first, I want to define what we talk about as virtues, because there's so many different ways of looking at virtues. But we talk about virtues as universal positive qualities of character. And throughout history, a lot of this is Aristotelian. Oh, I don't know if I said that right, but from Aristotle and Socrates' time, they started out looking at what is good in all of us, what is noble character. So there are things like resilience and gratitude and kindness and fortitude, strength, commitment, justice, diligence, determination. So these are things that we all have in us naturally. And they also are what businesses look at as they have as part of their mandates as well. Businesses at the end of the day are about relationships. They're about people. And to integrate these into your practices and your culture and your values is really critical. And it's interesting. You and I have known each other for some time, and we've both done work in the environment in the past. And I ended up joining my wife to do some work in Virtues Matter, and it's about how do you get people to really be their best and make the business be their best as well. And one simple example, we like to talk about these different virtues. The power of appreciation cannot be overstated. And when I say that is, I think the statistics is like 14-1, you get negative feedback in both the family and in the workplace. And sometimes just a thank you, but a strategic thank you really goes a long way in creating a culture. So, I want to thank you, Heather, for your commitment to upholding social entrepreneurship, because you are introducing this concept to so many people. So, you're actually just simply giving a virtue acknowledgement by acknowledging the positive you see in somebody and then giving evidence. So that's just one strategy of how virtues can work in businesses. But there's so many different ways that businesses can incorporate them into their core culture, their core values. In a business, for example, is how do you appreciate the people in your team? How do you measure if you have a core values? Everybody has these we believe in honesty, we believe in excellence, we believe in quality service. Well, how do you measure that? How do you reward that? How do you change that if it's not being recognized in ways? So virtues are ways to think. It's a language that you use, and there are also ways of actually leading towards behaviors, both as individuals and as teams and entities.
Yeah, there are two pieces that I want to add onto from a mindfulness perspective. And you talked a little bit about negative feedback, that's more pervasive and normal and in our living situations and at work. From a mindfulness perspective, we are programmed with a negativity bias, right? So it's like the survival of the fittest. We're trained to look out for danger in order to survive, and then we're bombarded by fear-based media and news and this and that. So it creates a negativity bias. So to focus on appreciation and gratitude, it's a huge reframing process and a huge practice.
Yeah.
But it's what we need. It's exactly what we need. And then in terms of the focus on the people, how important that is. I mean, we have these organizations with 250,000 people. Those are all people. And we come to work as human beings, right? So it starts with us,
Well,
right? On an individual and a systemic
absolutely.
level.
We always say it starts with yourself, so even in the business, they are comprised of many different individuals. And just, for folks listening, this isn't just a touchy feely. There's also, it's very quantifiable. We've done some work in the healthcare profession, which right now during COVID is going through, many challenges. I mean, the turnover rate in several professions have really, really increased. The cost, we actually work with the group, the Institute of Health, the Institute of Health Improvement, IHI. And they estimate that when a senior doctor leaves, and they're leaving in droves now because of the culture, it's over $1 million cost to that institution.
For the one person.
That one
Per
person, one
right.
person alone. So you start looking at that, what is your greatest asset that you have as an organization? It's the people that you have on your team. I mean, obviously you want to bring in your customers and your revenue, but it's the people on your team who are there who do that. So if you can provide them a workplace that really serves their needs, that honors them and uplifts them in positive ways, and those are virtues. It's kindness, it's caring, it's it's a thing I listed before. It's something that you can integrate into your practices.
Right, great, thank you for that. My last question for you is, if you were to leave us with one message or tip about the importance of virtues in an organizational setting, what would that be?
Yeah, and I take one from my wife, who is my business partner as well, because she uses this all the time, and I love this. But every moment is a virtues moment, and what that means is that if something's going well, what is it that's going well, and how do you frame that? And if something's not going well, what virtue could I call on? Oh, should I have been more tactful, or should I have practiced understanding a little bit more and listening to them, or mindfulness, which you've elevated? And maybe I was too rash in making a decision. So, every moment you can use the virtues in different ways to reflect. And I think one of the key tips is that virtues are a practice. We've developed a mobile app, which I can mention, but there's 100 different cards, and they teach you what the practice of these different programs look like, and how do you integrate them in your day, and how do you use them with other people as well. How do you do a virtues huddle, where you kind of come together and you talk about a virtue that might actually be needed in your organization at a particular time, and what does that look like?
So you're doing a nice entree into our closing. I want to
Ah,
ask you how people connect with you. How do they connect with what you're doing? So I'm going to go ahead and show the Virtues app page here.
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so the name of the organization we do is Virtues Matter. We are a nonprofit. The name of the app is called the Virtues Cards, or just Virtues Cards, as you can see right there. And it's a free download for a sample deck, and then you can download multiple decks within the in the app, full decks of cards. So there's a reflection deck, there's a character deck which uses is good for businesses. There's actually no religious quotes in that. We've actually developed a deck of cards with an organization called DECA, which is a international organization that works with young high schoolers and some colleges developing leadership and entrepreneurship skills. And we're doing a whole initiative around mental health and well-being right now. And that's another group that's really had a difficult time during the pandemic. So,
So
yeah,
Dave, your website, what is your website address?
it's virtuesmatter.org.
And .com, right?
Yeah, .com gets there as well. Yeah, we are a
Yeah.
.org. Either one gets there. But we are a .org as a nonprofit. So yes, we have both those URLs.
And
That's
then
what
what
a
if
good social entrepreneur does.
how can people connect with you personally?
Oh, just reach out. We're always looking for different partnerships with organizations, particularly in social entrepreneur space. My email is dave@virtuesmatter.org. We have a new part of the app right now where you can actually do volume purchasing, where you can actually give, we call it the gifts of character, where you can actually gift the cards to people on your team or other members in your community. And we have opportunities to do that in a collaborative fashion with other organizations. So we are all about partnerships and collaboration, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit, or even a community group as well.
And you're on LinkedIn too, right?
I am on all those social medias. Yes, we have to do that nowadays. So just look up Dave Feldman and Virtues Matter. I have a feeling there's probably not that many Dave Feldmans and Virtues out there together. Hope maybe there are.
All right. Thank you so much, Dave. Take
All
care.
right. Thank you,
Thank you for
Heather.
being here.
Thank you, everyone.